Hello everybody, welcome to our channel. I am going to do some voiceover for this video. I had recorded sound, but my kids were on the floor above me, and so you could hear them, and I didn't want you guys to have to, listen to that. So what we're doing today is I'm going to walk you through the entire process. So right now, we're starting where we start. We're going to start at the beginning. We're picking out a mat. I'm styling a suite here to use just for like purposes like this, and for content, and for the amazing woman who sent this to me, the cross-eyed fox. So I will be linking all of them in the description below. I'll be linking the cross-eyed fox. I'll be linking where the mats are from. Lindial Studios. Katrina is amazing. I have so many of her mats. And I'm just going to walk you guys through my process. So we're starting where I would normally start. We're going to start with what color mat I'm going to use. This invitation suite, so beautiful. It's got some wooden elements, some leather elements. Those little tags on all the pieces are all made of leather. So fun. Some wooden pieces. I have some name cards that are also wood, like so beautiful. And the shape of these is like, it's a different kind of shape. Like that's a diamond. It's not even a square. It's a diamond. So we're going to walk through how I pick a color. So I'm already looking at it, and I can tell you right now, the mat that they're sitting on is not going to work. It's not going to work. It could work. We could make that work. I just don't want to. I know another mat that I have can work better. So the tones in this mat are too similar. And that little pop of orange right there on those flowers, I'm trying to play into those. I want to play into those because the leather has a warm tone, the wood has a warm tone. I don't want everything to blend into that bluish, greenish kind of tone. I don't want it to blend into the background too much. So because we're working with blue and green tones, but we're also trying to work with a pop of orange or a pop of, like that warmer color, probably not the best decision to go with this top mat. So we're going to take everything off of it. And we're just going to move it to the side. And you'll quickly see. So like, obviously this mat, way too dark. Not the right color to use. Definitely not going to work for what we're trying to do today. So we're going to keep them going. This is how I do this in real life, guys. I literally put everything down, take a look at it, and it doesn't work or it does work. That one, definitely way too close to the envelope color and the ribbon color. That's a no-go. This green one, definitely not going to work. Not the same kind of green. We don't want to mix our green tones. This purple one, I don't even think I set the stuff down. Oh, I do briefly for a hot minute. Not a good choice. We're going to keep moving. Now these last two mats, these are the mats that I had pictured in my head. Now this cream mat with the gold, so beautiful. Love that mat. It's a great neutral. This orange mat, this is the mat that I was kind of thinking would go very nicely. Now I could use either of these. I'm going to end up using this orange because orange and blue are complementary colors on the color wheel. They're directly across from one another, so they work together very nicely. And this orange uses that pop of orange in the florals, so it matches perfectly. So we're definitely going to go with this mat here. If you wanted to use something more neutral, using that cream with the gold on it, that would absolutely work. We could do that. It would look stunning. I didn't want it to be too neutral, especially since we do have a lot of white space on the invitations. I wanted to be able to use something that had a color to it. So going with this orange mat was definitely the right choice, which you guys will see as we, show through or flash through the photos throughout this video. This will be a little bit of a longer video, so just be aware it's going to be a little bit longer, but I wanted to take you through this entire process. So why not start right here while we're picking the mat out? I really was happy with this decision. While I was taking the photos, there was a moment where I was like, oh, should I have used that cream? Is this too much? Is this too much color? But it definitely wasn't. This mat photographs beautifully, and it just was a really good choice. Hey guys, So we have picked our mat. We have our invitation set up ready to go. So now we're just going to pick some styling items. The really nice thing about the package that I got with this invitation suite was that some stuff was included. For example, I got a really cool set of acrylic block risers. I got some ribbon, which is in here, ready to go. I got some wax seals, and I got some stamps that match the stamps that are on the addressed envelopes. So I don't have to find those things. What I do have to find are those like little extra bits that I like to put in to just sort of bring it all together and make it feel like me. So I'm just going to walk you through some of the stuff that I was thinking about adding. I'm going to show you the ribbon that was sent, and yeah. We're just going to get started. We're just going to get going. So the wax seals that I got, they came in a couple of different colors. I just have to find the ones that she sent me. They all have the same pattern on them. Here they are. They all have the same pattern on them, but they're in different colors. So I just sort of have to pick the ones, I mean, really I can use all of them, which I think I'm going to end up doing, to be honest with you. Yeah, I think I'm going to end up using all of the ones that she sent me. So we've got that really pretty, again, that like greenish color. There you go. And then there's a more blue one. And then this color is the one that's on the envelope. So it's like this, almost like a rosy gold kind of color that we have. So those are the wax seals that we're going to use. I'm just going to set those to the side there. And we've got our ribbons. So let's bring our ribbons out. I know what ribbons that she sent for me to include. So I'm going to make sure that I pull those out to use because I love them. But I'm also going to pull out just a little pair of shears, little gold shears. This little vial of like little buds because it matches the overall kind of like floral vibe. So I'm going to use those. I always bring a cork out just in case. It adds a fun like little texture. So we'll put that out there. And then let me just find the ribbon that she, here it is, the ribbon that she sent me to use. So we've got these ribbons, which match the ribbon that's used on the suite already. So just a really pretty, like, kind of sage green color. Yeah, I think that will be really good. And I have the stamps already out there. I'll bring this little white dish down just to use as a nice neutral for something if we need it. Here are some of those acrylic blocks that she sent my way, which we use these as risers, so to give a little dimension. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, go back a couple videos on my channel. Go to my Instagram. I talk about risers all the time. So using the dimension there. I think she even sent me this ribbon. I'll have to double check in the note that she sent me, but I'm almost positive she also sent me this ribbon. So it's the same color, which is why I'm thinking she did. And then the stamps, here they are. Here's a couple other ones that I had thrown in here for safekeeping. And they all match the stamps that are on the envelope that is already addressed. I think I just have the one in here. Okay, so we'll use those. I'm going to grab a couple of other styling blocks for specific reasons. Set those to the side. We're cooking with gas. I love it. And now really all I have left is if I'm going to pick a ring box, which I think we'll do. I think we'll do a ring box. We don't have to if we just want to, have the invitation be the main star of the Flatlay. But I think we can just include one in there. So the envelope is blue. The colors are kind of like that botanical kind of vibe. So we could do a few things. Let me just pull out a few different options. And then we'll see what we think. So we could do something like this. It's like an antique rose or like a rose gold kind of color. It's hard to see. There we go. Whoop, there's that. We could try. We could also try this pear green color, which I think is really pretty, and that would look really cool. And then if we wanted to, we could use like this little pop. This is a Mrs. Box. We could try this. This might be too dark, but we'll try and see what we think. So that's really all I think I'm gonna grab out of here. I have some florals, so I have vines down that I picked out from my front yard. I have these little buds that I'm gonna use that I also picked from my yard, just as like a nice little pop of that rosy tone. And then we might use maybe some white florals, maybe some more neutral toned florals. We'll grab those out, and then when we do the video portion of the styling, you'll see what florals I picked for that as well. Another thing I wanted to mention that I got with the invitation suite were these really cool, I feel like I'm like an official YouTuber now because of this. They're like little wooden name things. So I have 2 of those that we can pair with the menu when we do like a menu shot. So that's really fun, that we get to be able to play with those as well. So yeah, that's sort of my thought process when I'm picking items out that I'm going to use for styling. We're just going to head right on to the styling portion. So we've got our mat picked out, we've got our items chosen, and we are ready to dive in. We're going to start styling this. You'll see as we go through the video that I cut ahead a couple of times and style different aspects. I'll throw some photos up in between, just of stuff that maybe I didn't record. I didn't want to record the entire thing because I just wanted to just show you a little bits in here and there. So how we're gonna start is how I start everything when I have a big old pile of this stuff. I like to separate everything out just to see what I have. So I'm going through the florals and really making those last minute decisions on what florals I want to use versus what I don't want to use. Sort of laying them all down, trying to figure out, okay, what exactly do I have? Do I have enough of each kind of item that I want to use? Are there any items that once I'm putting it all together, they don't make sense anymore? That sort of thing. So we're going to do that. And the cool thing about this particular suite is that I'm going to be mixing in faux and real floral items. So I have like those bright pink blooms and those green like ivy kind of stems. Those are real. Those are real floral elements that I'm going to be putting in. And then I have my faux florals that I just sectioned off down there in the corner. Next, what I'm doing is taking a look at all of the individual invitation suite pieces that I have. You can see I have a lot to work with for this particular suite, and I'm super excited about that. I love when that happens, when I get these nice full packages and nice full suites to play around with. I also got, and I was very excited about it when I was sent this package, I was sent an actual little bag of acrylic blocks to use for riser purposes. I love when we get those acrylic blocks. You can buy them off of the internet. I was just lucky enough to get sent them in this little package, this styled invitation suite package. It was so wonderful. The whole package presented to me was so beautiful, and there were lots of really great pieces in there. So we're just sectioning off and clearing the mat off. The inner workings of my brain while this is happening are something along the lines of, okay, we're going to start building shapes here. I'm going to start thinking about how I want to lay this out, if I want it to be vertical versus horizontal, and that sort of thing. So we started laying things out. I've started to play around with how I want things to sit on each other, if I want to put them on each other, if I want them all to be separate, that sort of thing. I'm noticing right now that there's a back and a front to that RSVP envelope. It has that wax seal detail on it. Just making some mental notes as I go along here, starting to play with how things fit together. These individual cards and pieces, they're not all the orientation of them isn't all the same. So some things are rectangles, some things are square, and some things are laid out in like a diamond formation. So just something that I'm making note of. And now we are going to start laying down these greenery pieces. These pieces were so much fun to use. I was so glad that I decided to pull these out from my yard and use these. These added such a fun element to the photos, which you'll see in the finished product. So we're going to start laying them down here and sort of build some like leading lines. Um, you'll watch as you watch through all of these videos today that I take a little time. I take a little time to think about how I want to use them. I rearrange things and move things around, especially with these vines. I remember moving them a lot throughout this entire process. And that was just because I wanted it to be perfect. So you'll see I'm pulling leaves off the bottom. I know I'm going to cover that part. I'm going to cover that part with like like part of the invitation or an envelope or something along those lines. So I don't want there to be like leaves sticking out. I don't want the pieces to be sitting on top of them. So I'm playing with the curvature of those vines. And the piece that I'm setting down at the bottom right here, what I actually end up doing with it is wrapping it around that white dish. I remember that. I'm trying to play off of the corners is what I was just motioning there. Because I have stuff in that top left hand corner. I'm trying to also have stuff in like the bottom right. And we end up doing that, just not quite the same. You'll see the whole process. You guys get to watch everything come together here. So yeah, see, I just removed that guy. We're wrapping the vines down around that little white dish. And I also remember getting things to sit with this dish the way that I wanted them to was also really hard. I started to get a little frustrated, just a little frustrated. So if that's anything for you, it just shows that, it doesn't always come easy to me too. There are some times where I have to like pause and just be like, okay, this isn't working. Why isn't it working? And for whatever reason, these vines, they were so great and I loved them, but they were just giving me the toughest time. There were a few moments throughout styling this stuff where I wanted to just cut them up into pieces and throw them out the window. I just wasn't feeling them. Wasn't feeling them. So you'll notice that I'm just shifting things around, still trying to keep the corners in play here, still trying to mimic, those leading lines and arcing. And we are finally feeling okay about where the vines are. So now we're going to start working with this ribbon. And I decided to use ribbon as well because I wanted to help fill the space up a little bit. Just because I didn't want there to be so much orange. The orange was sort of a complementary kind of color. So, we picked the orange because it goes well with the blues and the greens. But I didn't want there to be so much orange that it took away from those blue and green tones in the suite. So we're going to start filling up the frame a little more than probably what I normally would. But I'm really happy right now with the fact that there are things in all four corners. So we're going to pause and we're just going to start setting in some of the invitation pieces. Um, this is where I use those risers, those acrylic blocks. I have other risers that I use, and I'm just going to start building some layers. I set up that main invitation right there. I set that up pretty high because I wanted there to be some pretty great depth between that and the bottom. And to make that ribbon feel like it was a part of the whole entire image, not just sort of chilling in the corner there, I tucked it underneath that main invitation, just a little, just enough to make it seem like the ribbon was coming out from underneath it, so that it wasn't just there by itself. Filling in some of those gaps there, trying to use those leading lines and put things along the leading lines. So we've got that envelope there in the upper left corner. We've got one of those, I think it's an information card, or that might be like the actual details of the invitation card over on the right side, using that vine for the leading lines. Just trying to follow those vines down and put important pieces where your eyes follow. The really cool thing about the invitation and the cards and stuff, they have these leather tags on them, which I thought were so beautiful. And they all had like stamped on them like what they were. So there was like an information one, there was a details one, there was an RSVP one, there was an invitation one. They were so cool. Something totally different I hadn't seen before, and I was really excited. Still playing around with that white dish. Still playing around. Right now, you'll notice it kind of looks a little boxy. Looks a little boxy, and I'm trying to not match the corners up and the sides up. So I was making that kind of cross motion because I wanted to show that I'm trying to play the margins off of one another, so not make them parallel or perpendicular. I want there to be a little disconnect. And still creating more layers, we decided to put that little RSVP envelope underneath. Such a good choice. Such a good choice. It definitely helped fill that space in a little more. Now these diagonal pieces, so the RSVP card and the main invitation card, they're both shaped the same way, they're just different sizes. So what I ended up doing was playing them off of each other parallel. You could, yeah, I played them off parallel. I didn't center the RSVP to the main invitation. I did skew it a little bit, but I did keep the diagonals the same because if I didn't, it would look like a mistake. When things are set up diagonally like that, it's hard to not place them parallel without having them look like it was something that I messed up, you know? So in that case, we are going to play them off of each other, parallel, and that's okay. And then we did put those wax seals and the stamps are going in that little white dish there. So that was the purpose of that little white dish for me, was to be a placeholder for those little odd items, but also to be just another like layer. We got those scissors and I did drop them, but don't worry, they're not super sharp, so no harm, no foul there. And I have that little vial of those little botanical like little bits and pieces that we're going to put there. And I did play around with where I wanted those for a little while. And then I started to get really into it. I started cooking with gas, where we've got where we want things to go. I started to see the Flatlay, like it just sort of sprang to life at this time for me, which was really nice. What I'm doing right now is deciding which ring box I want to use. So I'm just setting the ring boxes, in the frame, seeing which one I like best. We ended up going with this blue guy, I think. Is it bet that I can't remember right now watching the video? This is how I make these decisions, you guys. I really just set them up and I put them in the Flatlay and I see how they look, and then I decide from there. Yeah, we did decide to go with the rose quartz. That's what I thought that we had decided. I just didn't remember till I saw it happen. So we place the box and the top of the box in, and I think we're good. We're gonna, oh yeah, this is my favorite part, you guys know, if you've been in the, if you've been to the channel, flowers are my favorite part. So we're gonna start adding in the florals, and this is just where for me everything just sort of comes to life, filling in some holes. I really take a look and I go, okay, where do I need to be directed? Where does something need to be filled in? What do I need to cover? Are there any like boring spots? Do I need to really play up these corners a bit? That hole on the left-hand side was really bugging me. I do remember that. So I did want to fill that in with something. Um, and see, this is the fun part for me because I know what this ends up looking like. And I want you guys to see it yourself, so I don't want to like spoil it for you and you get to watch the process. Just know the changes that I make during this part of the process So, so, so good. You can really see my brain kind of like working. So I started out with those, they look like poppies, I think. Started out with those poppies, wasn't feeling it. It was too heavy. It was too much. It was too big. So I took out the pink ones. And then I've got like these little white pieces. And I put the white pieces in back with that peach poppy because I thought, well, we still want to use those. So like maybe that. Didn't like that either. Now we're adding in the big white, and I really like the big white one. That one really anchored it down for me. And it covered enough space, but it was still white, so it didn't detract from the rest of the image. And now we're back to playing on the other corner. We have to keep things balanced. So we have florals in that top left. We have to put some florals of some form in the bottom right. You have to keep everything balanced. Can't have it feeling a little, you know, overweighted on one side and then it's just hanging on the other. And now we've got this big spiky flower. I wish is I want to call it a chrysanthemum, but I don't think that's what it is. If you know what kind of flower that is, that big one right now that's in my hand, leave it in the comments below for me. Let me know because I love working with this flower so, so, so much. This flower worked wonderfully with all of the aspects of this invitation suite and this whole package. It just fit this vibe so, so nicely. And before I started playing with those big blooms, I did motion to the top of the frame. I felt like the top of the frame was a little bare, a little like straight edged feeling, so I did want to add in some sort of cluster somewhere up there just to sort of even it out. And that's what that looks like. So we'll flash some photos up on the screen for you here and you can take a look. Alrighty, we have dismantled the first setup. We're gonna flip this horizontal and we're moving on to the next kind of setup. I wanted to show you guys a couple of different ways that I'm photographing these things, and also I wanted to show you that how I break things up into just different kind of like sections. So this first section that we did was like the main invitation pieces. And then this section, this group of items, is when I'm going to be styling something that can be used as like a favor. So this is something that I decided on my own to use because it kind of matched the vibe that I was picking up from the whole, group of items, as well as those little wooden name pieces and the menu card. I thought that those all grouped together would make sense. Like they would all be found on the table. So I was grouping them together kind of like in that sense, just like where they would go, what part of the day you would see them in, and what part of the day you'd see them together. So like these items I would see together. So I have turned it horizontal, still using those vines because those are really fun. And we are using that little potted succulent. And those two things I just set down they're like wood cut names. They're so cute. So cute. And then I have the little menu card, which is like a wooden square. So we're going to play a lot with like botanicals, a lot of flowers, a lot of greenery. And I'll be totally honest with you guys. This took a lot of brain power. Setting this shot up took a lot of rearranging and shifting and moving. I was having some trouble kind of like visualizing what I wanted until I had filled the frame up more. And once I filled it up, then I realized like where I wanted to put things and where I wanted to move them around to and how I wanted to shift things around and make them all fit together. It just felt like I had a lot of open space and I didn't quite know what to do with it, because I didn't want to add in more things than what I had planned on using. So we're just creating layers by stacking things on top of the florals and putting things directly on the mat. Just making sure things are sitting flush. That's a tip that I always recommend. When you're going to stack things up and create those layers, make sure they're sitting flush. Or you can always just tell something's a little wonky when you take the photo. And that's a question I get all the time. Sam, how do you make sure everything is level? I just pay a lot of attention to it and make sure things are stacked level and they're sitting flush and my camera is flush and making sure everything is good to go. This other little square that you're seeing, I think is supposed to be like a save the date. It could also be like a coaster. I'm very unsure as to what it is. I think it might be a save the date. It has like the date of the wedding on it. So I think it might be like their save the date. But I figured, hey, it's a wooden element, like we'll play it in. It's a different shape. This one's a diamond, so it's put in that diamond shape instead of the square. So we are going to use it here because it fit. It matched. I didn't really know where else to put it. I didn't want to put it by itself. So you're going to put it here. And you can see already how I'm trying to keep things level, or trying to keep things balanced, I should say. And I felt like there was just a big gap in that top and bottom corner. Those opposing corners just seemed really empty to me. So we're going to add in some blue. And we're going to add that in from the envelope. The reason that I decided we could do this, the reason I decided the envelope was going to be okay, was because I added in that save the date. Had I not put the save the date piece in, the envelope wouldn't make sense. So we just didn't do that. And because I put blue on that bottom corner, I felt like I should put something in that top corner. So we put another envelope at the top corner. And I did open the flap on that top one to give it a different shape than the one on the bottom. So that's a little tip that when you have more than one envelope and they're the same kind of shape, you just want to make sure you can, open one or turn one sideways. And you're watching me do this. You're watching me work through this. So we started with, just the menu card and the names and the favor. So just those pieces that work together. And then we added in that save the date because it was the same kind of texture and the same color. And so then we could add in the envelope because that's what the save the date would come in. And now since we added in the envelope, I'm adding in the little RSVP because that goes with the smaller envelope. And I think what that piece on the bottom was I think it was like the reception card. So we put the reception card in, and then we put the details card in. So you can just see how you can build it up as long as it makes sense. As long as it makes sense. So had I not put that save the date in, the envelopes wouldn't make sense. And because I wouldn't have the envelopes in, I wouldn't have the other invitation pieces in because that wouldn't make sense either. So you just have to pause when you're building these and you're putting them together. And you need to make sure the pieces that you're putting in them make sense. And I think that is something, it takes a little bit of finesse to sort of figure out what you can and can't do. Do I know that this works for 100%? No, I don't. I didn't know while I was doing it. I still don't know now after looking at the photos. I'm thinking that it does work just because of how I worked through it in my head. And when I was working through it as I was styling, it felt okay to do. Like it felt like it made sense. Like, okay, I have the envelope so I can put a couple pieces in. And I put the envelopes in because I used the save the date. And I used the save the date because it matched the menu card. Like it just sort of made sense. So to me it sounded like a good plan. It sounded like an okay thing to do. We're putting that little dish back in. I loved using that little dish to hold like the stamps and the seals. Such a great way to do that. and I have that, I can see the hole. So I see the hole down there in that bottom left corner. And all I needed to do was put that little vial in. And there we go. We've got a really great horizontal layout. So I wanted to just give you guys a little bit of a look on how I photograph things and how I stand. Now, obviously on a wedding day, I'm wearing shoes, so let's keep that in mind. But I use a mirrorless camera. The kind of camera that I use has a screen that you can like touch and focus and watch on, which is so handy for me when I'm doing shots like this. So I can see what it looks like just as I'm shooting it. So I can adjust my ISO and my exposure and my f-stop and all that fun stuff, and I can see the changes live on the screen. So what I can do is just sort of hover over that flat lay, hover over those detail photos, and almost edit in camera, which is how I get my shots to be so crisp and so bright, and like just in my style. I will say that yes, this does hurt your back over an extended period of time. Like I do a lot of hovering, I do a lot of bending, I do a lot of squatting. So just be prepared if you're not aware of the amount of physical exertion that happens when you're taking flat lay photos. This is what it looks like. I mean, it's a lot of bending over, it's a lot of making sure that you're exactly over top and then up high enough to get everything in the frame. And I shoot these with a 35 millimeter so that I can make sure I can get everything in the frame with enough space on the outsides. We're taking this one apart. I kind of like having you guys watch me disassemble them as well as having me assemble them. I don't really know why. I just think it's kind of fun just to like see like, yes, I do just take things apart and sort of shake them off. um that's just how we do it. So this last grouping that I'm going to put together, I wanted to pay special attention to the main invitation. So what we're going to do is just use this main invitation and just sort of sit it up on a bunch of florals. So I had in my head while I was doing the rest of these photos, just this image of like, because this main invitation is such a different shape, it's a square and then it's turned onto a diamond and it has this ribbon feature and it has this leather label. I really wanted it to like have its own moment. So the best way for me to do that would be to make it the focal point of the photo. So that would mean like nothing else goes on top of it. Like nothing else goes with it. It's just this main invitation. And because I wanted to play up that botanical feel, I'm going to place it on top of a bunch of flowers. So what I'm doing right now is trying to get it up high enough, which means I'm using things like ring boxes and those acrylic blocks together to make sure I get it up high enough so that it's going to be level instead of just sticking out on top of one of those big florals, because it wouldn't sit level then, and then it would get skewed when I photographed it, which we don't want to do. So I had to sort of build up this kind of like stand almost with a ring box, and then I think I used 2 acrylic blocks to stack on top of one another to stick that invitation on. And then what I'm doing here is just stacking in those florals. So I did 2 big florals, so one on opposing corners, and then I'm just sort of filling in like little ones around. So it's almost acting as like a little diagonal from the top right to the bottom left. I wanted to play up like the corner angle because this is such a distinct shape that I wanted to give it its moment. You can see it wasn't up high enough, so I'm moving things because there was like an odd amount of space at the top. It wasn't sitting balanced. So we're scooting things down so that it really looks like these florals are just coming out from underneath, not like they're just around the perimeter of the invitation. Like, I want it to really look like it's sitting on top of all these florals, almost like it's nestled in there. I actually really liked the way this came out. It came out exactly how I pictured in my head, which sometimes that happens, sometimes it doesn't. And really pleased with the shots that I got of this. You'll see when the photos scroll by, I actually ended up doing a little something extra with a very similar kind of vibe. I didn't record myself photographing the ones that I'm going to show you, but I'll throw them up there just because they have a very similar kind of feel. And you can kind of see what else, like what other kind of things you can do when you have like this kind of a vision. But yeah. As these last photos sort of scroll by, I just want to thank you guys for sticking with me through this video. I know it was a long one, but I was really excited to show you the entire process from start to finish. So thanks for sticking it out. If you haven't subscribed to our channel, definitely hit that subscribe button. Go ahead and give this video a like if you enjoyed it. And definitely ring that bell for notifications so that you can get notified every time we post. We post videos like this, definitely shorter ones, but we may do some longer ones like this in the future. And yeah, go ahead and leave us a comment, say hi, and thanks for hanging out with me today.